I'm Andrew and have created this channel to say some true stories, some of them unbelievable, some of them frightening, and some of them entertaining. The Grand Avalon Hotel wasn't just a building, it was a timeline of the city's glamour, stacked 20 stories high. And for Maya Cipher Petrova, it was a bank vault with terrible security. Maya didn't steal jewels or bonds, she stole moments. Specifically, the moments captured on the little paper slips the hotel's antique pneumatic tube system whisked from the front desk to the maid stations. They were called folio slips, and they listed every charge a guest had made: minibar indulgences, room service feasts, dry cleaning bills, and, most importantly, the imprint of their credit card. The scam was elegant. The Grand Avalon, clinging to its classic charm, still used the brass and bakelite tube system for internal communications. The network of pipes was a labyrinth behind the walls, and the central hub was a beautiful, whirring monstrosity in the basement. For decades, the slips for the penthouse and VIP suites were sent via a specific red-capped carrier. Maya had discovered that pipe number 7, which served the penthouse, had a loose coupling behind a service panel on the 12th floor. A flaw in the architecture, a 3-inch gap where the sound of the passing carrier was a distinct whump, whump, whump. Her operation was simple. She booked a standard room for one night. While the city slept, she would access the service panel, and with a long, custom-made tool coated in a strong but non-marking adhesive, she would gently snag the red-capped carrier as it shot past. Inside would be the folio slip for the guest in the royal suite. 5 minutes to carefully note down every detail, especially the credit card number and the guest's name. Then she'd release the carrier, and it would continue its journey, arriving only slightly delayed. No one ever noticed. She never used the cards for anything big. A tank of gas here, a nice dinner there. She was a ghost, sipping the foam off the top of the high life. She called it luxury sampling. Tonight's target was a Mr. Alistair Croft, according to the slip she retrieved. The charges were impressive: a bottle of Dom Perignon, caviar from the Russian tea room, a single charge of $850 at the hotel's bespoke tailor. The man was living large. She noted the card details and sent the carrier on its way. The next day, as was her ritual, she used the card number to make a small, untraceable purchase. A single, perfect orchid delivered to her own anonymous P.O. box. A memento of the score. The transaction went through smoothly. 2 days later, browsing the news, she saw a headline that made her blood run cold. Reclusive tycoon Alistair Croft found deceased in hotel suite. The article said it appeared to be natural causes. He had been dead for approximately 36 hours before a maid found him. The timeline hit Maya like a physical blow. She had stolen his folio slip after he had died. The champagne, the caviar, they were his last meal. A cold dread settled in her stomach. She had used a dead man's credit card. If anyone checked the transaction logs, they'd see a purchase made after his time of death. Her perfect victimless crime had just become a felony with a corpse attached. Panicked, she went to her usual forum, a dark web board for low-level financial grifters, to see if there was any chatter. Instead of police alerts, she found a private message from an encrypted user named Charon. The message was simple. The orchid was a nice touch. Pity about Croft, but his final bill is much more interesting. Check pipe number 7 again. Tonight. Be a ghost. It was a trap. It had to be. But the alternative, waiting for the police to trace the orchid, was worse. She had to know who Karen was and what they knew. That night, with a pounding heart, she repeated the process. She slipped into the service corridor, opened the panel, and waited. The familiar whump 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 sounded. She snagged the carrier. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The slip inside wasn't for a guest. It was a handwritten note. Cipher: Croft didn't die of a heart attack. He was poisoned. The killer used his own insulin, swapped for a concentrated toxin. The killer is someone who had access to his suite without a record, someone like a hotel employee. The security footage from the service elevator for that night has a 12-minute gap. The only person who can authorize that gap is the head of security, a man named David Ross. Croft was finalizing a merger that would have cost Ross his lucrative private contract. I believe they call that a motive. The note was signed with a simple line drawing of a boatman on a river. Karen. Maya's mind raced. She wasn't just an accessory to fraud anymore. She was holding evidence of a murder, and the real killer knew she existed. Another message popped up on her phone, routed through an anonymous app. You have 2 choices. Go to the police with this. They will trace the orchid, and you will go to prison for identity theft, while a clever murderer walks free. Or you can do what you do best, be a ghost, steal the truth. Karen's final message was an instruction. David Ross kept a private logbook in his office, a physical book because he didn't trust digital files. In it, he noted all special arrangements. The merger was codenamed Project Phoenix. Find the logbook. Maya realized she had no choice. She had been drafted. That night, using her knowledge of the hotel's blind spots and employee routines, she became a true ghost. She slipped into the head of security's office, picked the lock on his desk, and found the logbook. There it was, an entry for the night of Croft's death. Per Mr. Croft's request, temporary suspension of service elevator recording, 11:45 p.m., 11:57 p.m. for discreet delivery. But Croft was already dead by then. It was a lie. She took photos of the page and slipped away. The next morning, an anonymous packet arrived at the district attorney's office, containing the logbook photos and a detailed timeline. David Ross was arrested before lunch. Maya never went back to the Grand Avalon. She stopped her luxury sampling forever. She watched the news from a cheap internet cafe, her heart finally slowing its frantic rhythm. A final message from Karen appeared. Justice is a heavier lift than orchids, but you have a talent for moving things unseen. This city has more ghosts than just Croft. Perhaps you'd prefer to help them rest. Maya looked at the message for a long time. Then she deleted it, cleared the browser history, and walked out into the noisy city. She was still a thief, but now she wasn't sure what she was being asked to steal, or for whom. And for the first time, the silence she left behind felt dangerous.